Good to see you. My name's Andy Lower. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm the Executive Director of the Eleos Foundation. This is the second event that we've done this fall as part of our Frontier of Impact Investing series. There's a few new faces, a number of familiar faces. So thank you all for coming down to be with us. I'm just going to read one statement that our lawyer asked us to read, and then I'll jump on in with the rest of the discussion. So I need to make it clear, and I'll just read what I need to make clear. I need to make it clear that the purpose of the program is to discuss and educate about impact investing generally. There will be no discussion on any ongoing offerings, nor will questions be taken or information provided about any such offerings. So, with that being said, we're delighted to be welcoming David Auerbach from Sanergy. This is our third event of a 5-part roadshow that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. So I've been honoured to spend a lot of time with David. I'm not quite sure if that's been reciprocated, but we've spent a lot of time. We were up in San Francisco just yesterday. And next time we do a roadshow, I think we actually need to get a nice bus to be travelling around in. But Carla was driving David down this morning. So David's fresh from arriving into Santa Barbara. And then tomorrow we're going to be down in LA. And then on Tuesday, David will be over in Boston with Jim Villanueva for the event there. So we're really excited to be partnering with Sanergy. I had the privilege of being over in Kenya in April time and being able to see the work of Sanergy firsthand, and was really blown away by how effective their model has been so far, and really blown away by the impact it's having. So I am really personally delighted and excited that David's going to be able to share with you this afternoon. And we're excited on their progress. So what we're going to do, the format of today is going to be, I'm going to give a brief overview of Eleos for those of you who don't know who we are. We'll go briefly for those of you who do know who we are. And then we're going to play a video that we were able to take when I was over in Kenya. And then David will be doing a talk on Sanergy, and then we'll have a decent amount of time for Q&A for the last half an hour. So the events are trying to last no more than an hour, so we'll try and make sure it does fit that time frame. But please stay around, have refreshments, and talk more if you don't need to rush off. So hopefully the technology will play with us. It did last time, but it was close. Oh, and it's already started slightly differently. Okay. So who we are? We invest in early stage entrepreneurs pioneering high-impact market-based solutions that eradicate extreme poverty. Our DNA is one of educate, empower, engage. We're really keen to proactively be educating ourselves and to be leading and nurturing, cultivating a community here that's being educated. The idea is to empower social entrepreneurs like David that are eradicating extreme poverty, and to be able to find ways that we can all be engaged in this process together. So with that in mind, I really want to have that as a philosophical view with the Q&A especially. Please ask any questions that you have burning as we go through the presentation. Make a note of those questions, then ask them at the end. So the model of the Eleos Foundation, for those of you who don't know, we are a private foundation. We have a wholly owned for-profit subsidiary, Eleos Investments Management LLC, and that manages different series funds that we have. Some of you have heard of the work that we were doing in Liberia with Liberty and Justice. We'll actually be featuring them at the December event as part of this series. Then we have the work that we've been doing in India, and today we'll be featuring the work we've been doing in Kenya. The last event was featuring Series DDD, which was the outsourced data entry job creation group, and today we'll be featuring Sanergy. And 2 days ago we launched our Latin America fund up in San Francisco, and we'll be talking more about that in due course. So that's the basic structure. We've had 37 investors that have invested through us, and the idea of using these series LLCs, it provides an opportunity for investors to come along on the journey of learning with us. We're not a broker-dealer, we're not a registered investment advisor, but we simply provide opportunities for entrepreneurs to work with us and then to work with other investors. So we see this gap in the early stage investment space. We see these great ideas like David had a year ago, great ideas that are coming out of incubators or accelerators or business schools, and then there's this huge chasm for them to be able to get across to attract $1 million worth of investment capital. And we see that gap is especially obvious in the developing world, where there's a lack of early stage investment capital. So that's where we think that we as a foundation can fulfill that gap, and then also using the funds that go through the Eleos Investments LLC empower other investors to engage with us. So we use grants and we use seed investments that we make as a foundation, and then we make investments in A rounds, B rounds, and bridges to be able to get entrepreneurs ready for that $1 million minimum. This is what we have currently in our Kenya fund, Penda Health, where we just approved a early stage $20,000 investment, and we managed to leverage that to get 4 other investors to come in on the same term sheet to invest independently. They've got 1 clinic in Kenya, and we're really seeing if we can use that as a pilot. Copia are a Sears catalog type model for distributing goods and services to peri-urban communities. And again, real early, we gave them or invested $25,000. Sana A is a sanitary pad manufacturing company. We gave her a $20,000 grant to be able to prove out her model. And then DD, like I mentioned, and then the one that's furthest along to getting that $1 million minimum investment is Sanergy. And we've had a lengthy journey with them where we've given them grants and then also made investments both directly and then through the LLC. So with that, before I hand over to David, I will just play the video and then I'll leave it with David.
Sanergy is a social enterprise that is focused on making sanitation accessible, affordable, and hygienic in Africa's slums. We piloted our work in Nairobi, Kenya. We're currently working in 3 informal settlements called Makuru Kwa Ruben, Kwa Jenga, and Viwandani.
Where 2.6 billion people around the globe don't have access to adequate sanitation, and we're not only solving that problem, but making it profitable to do so.
At present, we have 25 sanitation facilities up and running, serving about 1,200 people every single day.
Success will look like every single person in any area where we're working having access to a clean toilet, 100%.
We address the entire sanitation value chain, and we're doing so in 3 steps. We're building, collecting, and converting. First, we're building a dense network of low-cost sanitation facilities which are franchised out to people living in the community who run them as small businesses. As part of being a franchisee, we offer a variety of services, including a daily waste collection service. And so every single day, the Fresh Life Frontline goes into the community and removes the waste from each of our toilets. They take the waste to a centralized facility where we're converting it into profitable byproducts, such as fertilizer and electricity.
Every day, our Fresh Life Frontline goes to each toilet and collects the full containers of waste and brings them to our central facility where the waste can be processed, safely processed, and reused. Here, Samuel and Joseph, part of our Fresh Life Frontline, is coming in with the full containers of waste, and they'll be weighing them and then adding on other organic waste with it and then processing it into organic fertilizer. Each container is uniquely labeled. Samuel and Joseph take the containers out and weigh the waste so that we know exactly how much usage each toilet got in every single day, and we can understand both from a business perspective as well as an environmental perspective how much income we're generating in the communities, as well as how much waste we're safely removing from the communities and converting it into organic fertilizer. Once the waste is brought to our central facility, we mix it with other organic waste such as sawdust and use a process called thermophilic aerated box composting, which allows us to convert the organic waste into organic fertilizer in a matter of 3 to 4 weeks. During this process, we measure the temperature and the oxygen levels in each box every single day to get a clear understanding of both pathogen destruction as well as organic content decomposition. After about 3 to 4 weeks of close monitoring, we know exactly when the fertilizer is ready so that we can take it out for sampling to third-party labs and independently verify both pathogen destruction and nutrient content. Now what you end up with is a very healthy, rich organic fertilizer that's both high in carbon content as well as high in nutrient content. By using third-party labs, we know exactly how much nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium is in our fertilizer, so we can work closely with both flower farms as well as vegetable farms and maize farms around Kenya to tailor this fertilizer exactly to their requirements. Organic fertilizer not only can boost crop yields, but also significantly improve the soil health and reduce acidity levels in the soils, which are both a huge problem across Kenya.
The way that we sell our toilets in the community is by offering it as a franchise package. The Fresh Life franchise package is an unbeatable deal. Nobody else in the slums, let alone Kenya, offers something quite like this. You can buy 1 Sanergy toilet for 45,000 shillings or 2 for 70,000. This discount has proven to be very, very interesting for our operators. And we're finding that many of our franchise partners are actually becoming macro franchise partners.
What I can say about the Flash Life toilets, they are very, very, very good. And everyone in this area is affected because he or she wants to enter in that toilet because the toilet is very, very clean. It has a mirror and there is no smell, no flies. Yeah, it is very clean. Now my business is very good. It is just going up and up. So I'm very, very happy with this business. What I can say to the community, this thing called Fresh Life, it is not for me and it is not for the Fresh Life people. It is for you. Come and use this toilet because it is your property.
We believe that the most effective way to get people to use a clean toilet is to build an aspirational brand. People understand that using a clean toilet is good for their health, but that doesn't necessarily get them to change their behavior. What we're doing is we've built an overall brand called Fresh Life, and we market that throughout the community so that people know what Fresh Life is. In the same way that when somebody thinks, I'm thirsty, I want a Coca-Cola, we want them to think, I need to go to the bathroom, let me find the nearest Fresh Life toilet. We then also work specifically with our franchise partners to make sure that they market their individual toilets so that their neighbors know they have this toilet, they know it's clean, and that they use it successfully.
So at Sanergy, we cannot have a financial impact without having a social impact. Our goal is to get to 1,000 toilets, at which point the waste from those toilets will generate sufficient revenue in terms of sales of fertilizer and other byproducts that will be a profitable company. Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, taking the time out of your afternoon to come learn about the work that we're doing in Kenya slums. And thanks to the Eleos Foundation for leading me on this road show, which is really exciting. Carla and I went to In-N-Out Burger today. And that was that was the best. No, anyway, so my name is David Auerbach. I'm one of the co-founders of Sanergy. I thought I'd just quickly tell you a little bit about my own story, just so you know how I ended up living and working both in toilets and in the slums of Nairobi, Kenya. So I come from a family that in 2006 had a family reunion, and there were 75 people there, and not a single person worked for a for-profit entity. Everybody was teachers, social workers, students, or unemployed. And my own background had actually been, I had lived and taught in China for 2 years at that point. And when traveling through China, I saw firsthand just how much I had taken the issue of sanitation for granted. Just, there were just so many terrible toilets. And it's something, that I didn't know at that moment that I was going to be, committing my life to this challenge. But it was there. And then when I came back to the US, I went to work at a nonprofit called Endeavor in New York. And Endeavor is a nonprofit that helps for-profit entrepreneurs in the developing world. So we used to help entrepreneurs in countries like South Africa, Brazil, Colombia, India, Egypt, places like that. And I became, one, totally inspired by the entrepreneurs who every single day, against the odds, were going out there and changing their countries. And two, the power of market-based solutions. The idea that if someone is able to scale a business, you're going to be providing better services, a higher quality of life, and changing people's lives, making it easier every day. And so then what happened was that I ended up going to business school at MIT. And MIT as a mantra is their motto is basically hands in mind. Right? Putting your hands to work, using your brain to do so. And while there, I met my two co-founders, Ani and Lindsay, who each had their own different experiences. Ani was originally from India. His family actually had a biodigester where they were taking cow manure and converting it into fertilizer. And Lindsay had worked for Teach for America in New Orleans when Katrina struck. And she ended up opening the first charter school after the hurricane, and such that the government basically said there's going to be no schools for the whole year. And she and her team were like, that's not acceptable. And so in the face of the government saying we can't provide basic services, they actually were able to deliver those services. You take those experiences, and that is what's brought us to Sanergy. So what do we do at Sanergy? Well, you saw the video, but I thought I would walk you through that. So at Sanergy, we build sustainable sanitation in urban slums. 2.5 billion people around the world lack access to an adequate toilet. And this kills 1.7 million children every single year. 50% of the hospital beds in sub-Saharan Africa are filled with patients who are suffering from some sanitation-related disease. Where I work, in the slums of Kenya, 8 million people lack access to adequate sanitation. And what they do is a combination of 3 things right now. One is a makeshift toilet like this. They pay 3 to 5 cents to basically get a little bit of privacy, but not much, but a very unhygienic experience. Some use public toilets, but the trouble with these is that they're far from where people are living. So you have to walk 15 to 20 minutes to get to the toilet. And according to a study from Amnesty International, women won't go further than 100 meters to go to the bathroom at night. The risk of sexual assault and rape is just too great. And then third is what Kenya's notoriously known for is flying toilets. And this is the practice of going to the bathroom in a plastic bag, which offers you the privacy of going in your own home, but then you end up throwing it into a public area, putting everyone else at risk. And this next slide is a little bit graphic, but I think it's really important to show. 4 million tons of waste every single year in Nairobi are dumped into rivers and waterways. 90% of the waste. So this isn't an issue of just building more toilets, because the waste has to go somewhere. And so what we do at Sanergy is we take a systems-based approach to solving this challenge, and we do so in 3 steps. One, we're building a dense network of low-cost sanitation facilities, which are owned and operated by people in the community. 2, on a daily basis, we remove the waste from the community and take it out of the community, and then we take it to our centralized site where we're able to convert it into useful byproducts, namely fertilizer and, in time, electricity. And in doing so, this model creates jobs, opportunities, and profits by solving serious social, economic, and environmental challenges. But it begins with the Fresh Life toilet. And this here, just briefly, this is Agnes Kwamboka, and actually I have her story at the back if you're interested in it. But Agnes is from Makuru. She's lived there about 20 years. She has 8 children. She used to sell boot liquor and was paying bribes to the government every day to run this business. And the worst part of running a boot liquor business is actually that people then mistake you for a prostitute too. And so the indignity that came with that was really, she grew sick of it. And so she came and learned about the work that we're doing and purchased a Fresh Life toilet from us. This is what she purchased. And as you can see, it's a big, bright blue toilet. We're all about changing sanitation as an experience, right? We want you to, think you're at the Four Seasons, as it were. And it starts with, who we pick as operators and the type of service we're providing. So this toilet is very, very clean on the inside. We paint the floors with epoxy paint, so it's just like a garage, so it's very easy to clean. But everything about the experience is actually very clean too. This is the inside of it. And so you can see we provide bins for litter, a sealed bin for sanitary pads and things like that, and then sawdust, which provides a cover. So it reduces odor, and that way you don't see who went before you, which people like a lot. And then inside the toilet, the waste goes in here. So the solid waste goes to the back and the liquid goes to the front. And then we're able to double seal it and then safely remove it from the community. Each of these is able to take about 80 to 100 uses per day. And then what we do is have this Fresh Life Frontline come every single day. And that might not sound like a particularly lovely service to you, but it's really what makes our model a Cadillac. People really love that every single day, rain or shine, 365 days a year, people like Victor and Samuel here come to their toilet, provide them with a professional service in a trained and equipped way, take the waste out of the community, and allow them to continue to run their business successfully. And what this means right now is that each entrepreneur is able to generate an income, a profit of $1,000 per year per toilet based on our current usage. This is an area, one, that has 40% unemployment, and two, the poverty line is $450 per year. So here we are in the most marginalized areas, and people are able to run these as businesses and do extremely well. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of an update of where we are. So we're working in these three slums, Mukuru, Kwa Reuben, Kwa Jenga, and Viwandani. This is the industrial area of Nairobi. There's 125 factories, 500,000 people living there. Since we started in November, and really it's January, we've been able to open 100 toilets. We're actually at 105. This is 2 days old, so so we have 105 toilets up and running, and then we've been able to provide sanitation for 5,000 people every single day. At the same time, we've been creating a lot of jobs within the community. Right now, we have created about 120, if you include the entrepreneurs, of which we have 55, and our staff of about 75. So it's 130. Just one thing that when we started working with the Eleos Foundation last year, they really pushed us. They said, you guys don't have any Kenyan leadership. And that's something we're very, very sensitive to, but it's also true. And so what we've been able to do is build out, we have 8 divisions, and they're all now run by Kenyan managers. All people 7 to 15 years experience, worked at blue chip companies in Kenya, and yet felt the same call to action that the work that they've been doing in larger corporations, they didn't feel like their skills were being put to use. And then they've come and joined us, which has been really exciting. People often say it's really hard to recruit talent in Kenya or in the developing world. I don't think that's necessarily the case. If you build good companies that people want to come work for, you can get that talent without overpaying. and then the last part of this is the amount of sludge collected. We made it look like sand for you guys. So anyway, and so we now actually have about 175 tons in storage right now that's in process being converted into fertilizer. We're collecting somewhere between 1.5 to 1 3/4 tons every single day. We are the largest sanitation provider in the community, and we have by far the most waste, which is good for us and everyone else. And we've been able to convert this into a nutrient-rich organic fertilizer. One thing that the Eleos Foundation was able to do before the initial work where we brought all of you in was actually they gave us a strategic grant that helped us prove out this part of the model. And it was really key for us to be able to produce fertilizer and then demonstrate that we could sell it. All of the fertilizers that we've produced so far, we've been able to successfully sell to a variety of cooperatives and distributors. We also have 7 letters of intent for people to buy as soon as we're able to produce more. You saw in the video that Ani was mentioning that it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for us to produce the fertilizer. That's actually just part of the composting process. Right now, it's actually taking us about 6 months to do. So we're producing a lot, and we have a lot in progress, but it's taking us a long time to be able to produce that fertilizer. And I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing in the future, but we're going to be able to mechanize that process and cut down the production time to about 10 days, and be able to produce 2 to 3 times the amount of fertilizer per day too. So it's a really exciting time for us in that front. And then we've also started to produce biogas. We have a simple biogas digester up and running, and it's really exciting for us to be able to test this out. We're able to extract the methane from it, and we can do all sorts of things with it, from convert it to electricity down the road when we're much bigger, when we're, say, at 1,000 toilets, to what we can do right now, which is use it as a cooking fuel if we want, or a drying agent and things like that. So yeah, and so this brings us to where we are today. So basically, So basically, we're on, our goal is for by 2017 to have 3,500 toilets up and running, serving about 200,000 people every single day. We still have a long way to go in these communities, but we feel like we're on a really good track. the result from that would be that we'd be able to produce about 19,000 metric tons of fertilizer, which we've been able to sell at prices from $300 to $500 per ton, as well as 2,800 megawatt hours of electricity that we can work with the government to build in relationships with them, and they guarantee feed-in tariff prices for us. And what that really means as a business is that it's going to be profitable. Well, we're going to be profitable by the end of next year, but then in 2017, we have revenues of over $10 million and profit margins of around 30%. It's really, really exciting time for us, and it's been a really exciting time to be on this roadshow right now, because I know we came here a year ago, and we really were just an idea that had done really well in a variety of business plan competitions and social enterprise fellowships and the like. But we spent the last year living and working in Nairobi. Our whole team is there, 75 on staff, mostly Kenyan, and it's just gone up and up, and it's really exciting to come back to report to you all on how we've been doing, and I welcome your questions. Thank you. I always like to do questions with this photo, because it's
great.
Yeah.
Nice to meet
There
you.
we go.
Well, like I said, we've been delighted to see the growth that Sanergy have had. It's kind of been really exciting for us to see how it's worked on the Eleos model. But they had 2 toilets when we first started working with them, and one particular person at Eleos really was very potentially aggressively pushing them about the Kenyan leadership issue. And it's been really exciting to see just how strong their Kenyan leadership is, and to actually meet some of the entrepreneurs. Agnes, who was the lady that David referred to, there's a YouTube video of her up online, and it's just really exciting to see the lives that are being impacted. So please ask questions.
What does chew mean?
Oh, can you guess?
Toilet?
Yes, very good. It's pronounced cho, but yeah, it's just slang for toilet, I guess. So.
So are you guys paying for the people that pick up the...
Yeah, good question. Sorry, I didn't go into that. So what we do is that we sell the toilets for $500 to an entrepreneur, and what they get with that, they become a franchise partner. So they get the installation of the toilet and the construction, but then they become franchise partners, and we provide all the services of a typical franchise, right? So you get branding, marketing, business support, training. We do community-wide marketing. But then what we also provide, built into that $500, is the waste collection service. That costs us about $100 per year, and the entrepreneur renews that on an annual basis. For the entrepreneur, the economics of that are about 5 uses per day. So if they're right now averaging 50 to 60 uses per day per toilet, we're basically handling their biggest burden to success for a fraction of their revenue back. Sorry.
Is it hard to find the people with the $500 capital?
Great question. Yeah. So where we are, we have a great sales team. They're called Team VIP, self-named, and so we have 8 of them, 4 men, 4 women, and actually half from the community and half with prior sales experience. We find it's a really good combination, right? Because people who are from the community, they really know who's got money and who doesn't, but they don't necessarily have the sales expertise. And those with sales expertise have the discipline to be able to close sales. That's a huge skill to have. So they work really well together. They go out in the community and they've been able to find people we have 3 different ways that we find them. One is through we do competitive profiling. So we do using mapping technology to understand where all the sanitation facilities are in the community already. And so we can identify really good spots to put toilets, and then we find people that we know in the community who have the best chance of being able to own a toilet there. We also go pitch to lending groups, so work with the microfinance banks and go pitch to their groups. The microfinance banks love this because we're basically giving them a business in a box that works really well for them. And the third way is through referrals. So Hannah, who you saw in the video, she was one of the women you saw in the video, she's actually brought us 3 other entrepreneurs to run his businesses. But even still, the $500, could be pretty difficult. And what happened about a month ago is that we went live on the Kiva website. So Kiva, the online microlending platform, So we're their first sanitation partner. And so in the last 2 weeks, we've had about 9 of our entrepreneurs go up on their website, and the loans have been filled in under an hour, every single one of them, which has been like just awesome for us. A little annoying for my parents, who still can't, fill a loan. But anyway, they're trying. But that's been really great for us, because basically what that's meant is that in the past, we were basically charging $250, which is how much it costs us to build and install the toilet, as a down payment. So you had to have $250 if you were going to become an entrepreneur. Now we can take a much greater risk by working with entrepreneurs who have access to land, which is actually the biggest challenge, but don't necessarily have access to good financing. And because with our model, we see our entrepreneurs 10 times a week, right? Between the waste collection, the marketing, and just having operations in the community, we know they're not going anywhere. Kiva loves that. So they've been really excited to work with us and find more entrepreneurs. And it's worked so great so far, 100% compliance. So.
Just to add on to that, one of the questions that we've been having over the last couple of weeks is $500 too low? Which I never thought we would be having that conversation. But it shows kind of the appetite level that there is and the success there has been. Because if you'd have told, one of the questions I had along with Kenyan leadership was, the reason you need Kenyan leadership is $500 is far too high from my vast knowledge, and it's actually been proven to be quite low.
But that's not an arbitrary price. That $500 is how much it costs us to provide sustainable sanitation for a year. That's where it comes from. We don't make profit off of that. We do that at cost, with the goal that we are delivering these services to as many people as possible. Yes.
So you brought up the question of land. How does that work?
Great question. So right now, the way it works is that the entrepreneur is responsible for having access to that land, for securing access. Most of these entrepreneurs have lived in the community for a long time, and so they know whether the land that they want to build on is actually safe or not. So that's how it's been to date. But we've started to find that that we need a much stronger relationship with the government, and so we actually are hiring a government relations person right now who's going to work with all levels of the government. I've had the privilege to meet with the Minister of Water, the town clerk of Nairobi, and people like that. That's quite high level, and that's a really important approval to be getting. But on the day-to-day basis, you need to be working with levels of government there.
So do they lease it, or do they own it, or do they borrow it? Or?
So it varies. It really varies from case to case. We have some people who are leasing it, some who just have access to it. I always hesitate to use the word own because land rights is so very nebulous in these communities. The one thing that we provide is that's unique is a demolition insurance. So basically, in the event that there's a demolition, which is it's often talked about in these communities. In fact, it was actually in The Economist last week. There was an article about the very slum that we're working in and about land rights there. So we provide an insurance for the entrepreneur that in the event of a demolition, of which there's always talk but very little walk, we will repay the entrepreneur a prorated amount in that event, but more importantly, help that entrepreneur rebuild. And it's worked really, really well as a way of at least appeasing people's concerns.
So ultimately, the government, you're hoping, will give you government property to put
Well, it's interesting. So we want to do that to some degree, mostly because that's like more public area, so it's really good for brand recognition. But what we really want to be doing is going deep into the heart of where people are living. So we're targeting people like landlords who have access, who provide housing to 10 to 12 families. So working with them to build toilets in their plots, right? Working with civic institutions, so schools, churches, healthcare centers, so that they're able to provide a service to their clients or people using that. And so basically changing our strategy up a little bit, our distribution strategy, so that we're working with, commercially, so potentially with government there, but then landlords and also these other institutions.
The expected lifespan of one of these, and do the entrepreneurs have an option to extend, or is that in the equation?
Sure. So these are made of thin shell cement. It's a really durable type of concrete, and it's really important because it gives a strong sense of permanence. It also gives a life expectancy of over 5 years. This is something that's really, really important too. Our hope is that as we evolve over the next few years, the entrepreneurs will then want to upgrade their models too. And it's really important to find ways to work with them so it remains a sustainable business for them.
And I noticed some wash basins outside.
Yeah.
Is that an amenity that the...
No, sorry. Thank you for bringing that up. So within the $500, we provide a hand washing basin too. And the entrepreneur signs a franchise agreement that they must also be providing soap, toilet paper, and water so that people are able to have the full hygienic experience. We've actually, for the soap and the toilet paper, we've actually worked with Unilever and a company called Chandaria, which is the leading toilet paper manufacturer in Kenya, to get highly discounted prices for quality products. And we pass those savings on to the entrepreneur so they're able to provide a better service at a cheaper cost.
Is the water safe?
So the water comes from Nairobi water. It's not drinking water, but it is from in these communities where we work. The people have access to tap water, and it costs about 3 shillings, which is about 4 cents for 20 liters. So that's enough for a day of hand washing.
This is a great model. Thank you. Given the success and given the sort of expected success, are all of your entrepreneurs in your Kenyan leadership of the same ethnic group? And are there any mechanisms in place to see to it that future investors and future customers will continue to have access to this service?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially with the election coming up in March. So we have the full spectrum of tribes in Kenya who are owning our facilities and who are on our leadership team. It's something that we've made I would frame it as like a conscious. We're conscious that among our leadership team and staff that we're actually making sure that we have people representing different tribes. But it's not, we're not super active about that, but it's important to just pay attention to it, especially as political tensions start to rise a little bit. One really amazing story is that one of our staff is a woman named Miriam who was with us for the last year, and she went to the African Leadership Academy in Johannesburg, and she's now at Trinity College in Hartford, which is really exciting. But she and another of our colleagues, whose name was Liz, came up with this campaign called I Am Kenyan, and had all of our staff take photos of themselves saying I am Kenyan rather than I am Luo, I am Luya, I am Kikuyu. And it's just sort of, really speaking to creating a culture of our work where you are tolerant of everybody. And we feel that as a company, that's the best thing that we can be doing is espousing an open, supportive culture.
Building on that, do you want to talk a bit about the gender makeup of the team and also the gender that you're serving, kind of the gender balance?
Sure, yeah. So of our entrepreneurs, so we have about 55 entrepreneurs right now, and 60% are women, which has been really exciting for us. We find that people like Agnes, or women who are generally over the age of 40, really strong figures for community health and the importance of community health, without us having to be very explicit about that. Everything that we're doing is around aspiration, right? Making, I think Lindsay said it, it's like, if you want to have if you're thirsty, you have a Coke, you need to go to the bathroom, you go Fresh Life, right? And that's where we want to be at. And so you don't want to be beating people over the head with, all of the public health messages around, diarrhea and things like that. And so, so we've been thinking about ways that you can be have a really strong message on the public health side without being too explicit about that. And we found that people like Agnes have been the best representation of that. Among our users, it's about 55% women, 45% men. I think, which is a nod towards the privacy that you're able to get, and showing right now that people are coming usually about once a day. And so what we're looking at is ways that they can will actually continually come, for any time they need to go. And so we're looking at things like membership plans and things like that.
At that use of one today, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Is that then, obviously it must be because you're being so successful, affordable for a family?
Yeah, I mean, this to me is sort of the essence of why market-based solutions are really important, right? No matter what, like if people can't afford that, they won't use it, and the toilet will shut down, right? And it's not being propped up by traditional aid, and so yeah, so these prices are being set by the entrepreneur. We recommend that they charge 5 shillings per use, but in some cases they come down to 3, and in some cases they go up to 10, and we provide them with real-time feedback of what their usage is and what their economics are, so that they're able to understand what a change in price would do.
I have a question about the processing center, because I mean, it's like, do you want the jump in your backyard sort of model? And then also about the capacity. It sounded like you have some ideas, but it's growing that quickly.
Yeah.
You'd worry about the capacity that you can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Andy can tell you it smells like roses, right?
Truly does. As I mean, it's not quite roses, but there were two things that hit me. There. One was I was nervous to use the toilet because it was so clean, and I didn't want to be the one that made it not so clean. But it was really, really, truly, really clean, and it wasn't just the show and tell. It was I went in to see 3 or 4 different toilets as I walked around the slum. The second was that I expected it to be a horrific smell as you'd come around the corner. And we were there, and I was there with another Westerner who arrived while we were there, and she said, where are we going? Like, where is the plant? Because I've not smelt anything. And so it is generally very, very hygienic, very, very safe. You saw Arnie on the video, one of the videos showed the video, is he's putting his hands in human waste, and it's perfectly fine, perfectly hygienic, perfectly safe.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's removing all of that waste from the community.
Right.
That is a slum community.
Yeah.
That would otherwise,
Yeah, no, I think that's a, yeah. I mean that's like a very strong value proposition that we make to people. We're taking this out of the community, making your communities cleaner. But the good news is, I mean, you are right that we are hitting a point where, we have box after box after box of waste, and we're running out of space. So we're actually moving to a 5-acre site early next year for all of our waste management processing, which will enable us to handle the waste from 500 or 600 toilets.
and do you want to say a bit about how the process is going to be, current timeline, and what the plan is going to be?
Sure, yeah.
In the new year to make the process quicker?
So in the new year, we're investing in some technology that is from Malaysia but has been exported to South Africa and the UAE before. That's going to enable us to mechanize the process. So right now with box composting, which here in California, you can imagine what composting looks like, but it's really that from as far as the eye can see, but of boxes. We're actually investing in the technology to mechanize it, and that will cut down the process from 6 months to 10 days, and basically enable us to produce 2 to 3 times more fertilizer per day too. So this is a really, this is a really big next step for us, but we can only take this step now because we have a sufficient infrastructure in place, i.e. to produce enough of the waste.
And then the distance to transport to the processing center, is that already?
So right now, great question. So right now, everything is done by handcart. So the entrepreneurs aren't, the Fresh Life Frontline isn't going farther than 2 kilometers. And they have their very set routes. So we haven't had any issues with that. The pilot site where we are effectively is going to become a transfer station. And then we'll be able to truck it once or twice a day. Our production cost for fertilizer is going to be about $100 per ton. And we're going to be able to sell it, or we are selling it, I should say, between $300 to $500 per ton.
Are these used during the night, and what do you use for lighting?
Great question. So translucent roof here is great during the day. We provide a D-light, which is a very simple solar lantern to provide extra light for a couple hours during dark. Our peak hours are 5 to 8 in the morning and 5 to 8 at night, so it's really important for the facilities to be open then. So getting it, in a more commercial model, it's been hard for us to have it kept open during the night. It's just not safe for the entrepreneur. But this is what's so important about the landlord model that we're rolling out. Getting it close to where people are living, and so it doesn't have to be attended to at all times, means that people will be able to use it 24 hours a day. So we're really excited to be rolling that out over the next few months, so that we can get to that issue of, not only people having access, whenever they want, but also, or access close to where they are, but whenever they want. So it's a great thing.
Let's make this the last question. So,
when the fertilizer is sold, or when you start producing electricity and
Yeah.
you start having power agreements and stuff, will any of the profits from that go back to the entrepreneurs or the community?
Yeah, that's where we as a company become sustainable. I think, the way I see that is that those profits get reinvested into us expanding the model. We have consciously chosen not to dispute with or not to take a cut of the revenue from the franchisee right now for every use of the toilet. So in a more typical franchise model, you might split the profits 80-20. We just said forget about that. It doesn't matter. You guys, we want you to run really good businesses and be fully incentivized to keep all the waste that you are collecting. And then what we do is that we take that waste out, and that's where we make our profits. It's something that we've talked about and thought about a lot philosophically, but we feel that the proven markets for selling fertilizer are a good place for us as a company to become profitable and sustainable. And the social mission of ensuring that we're providing hygienic sanitation for all is something where we're not actually making the profit. We're providing that completely at cost.
So thank you.
Cool. Happy to geek out.
Yeah, I know you are. This is the 6th time in the last 2 weeks, I think, that I've heard the presentation from David. And every time I'm always blown away, and I'm really proud of what they're doing, even though it's obviously them doing the work rather than us, but really delighted to be in partnership with them. And we're really excited about the work that Sanergy have been able to achieve. And we had some great conversations 2 days ago on the panel in San Francisco, talking about the growth that we believe that Sanergy have and the larger term impact, not just in the slum in Kenya, but for the opportunities for copycats and other groups to be able to potentially changing sanitation in Africa. So I don't say that flippantly, but I mean it and I believe in it, and I'm really excited about the work of Sanergy. So thank you all for coming. Our next event's going to be at the beginning of November. We'll be featuring a gentleman called Naveen from Sadiksha, who's working in India, providing education opportunities there. And so we're really excited. He's coming over from India to be with us. And so we'll be sending out email invitations for that. And there are some information at the back. If you haven't signed in, then please do sign in. It would be great to be able to track who has been here and to be in touch with you. And then there are refreshments at the back. And is there anything else I've forgotten, Carla? That's great. So thank you all for coming. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you soon.